Hey guys, Quicksilver Gaming here, bringing you another episode of Call to Arms Gates of Hell Ostfront. This is our Cold War mod playthrough, and things will be a little bit different on this one. Unfortunately, my microphone audio was corrupt when I went back on the recording. It'll be like this for episodes 5 and 6. So I have to do a little bit of a voiceover. I might just let the gameplay on certain areas. As you can see, the gameplay audio is perfectly fine. I do record on 2 completely separate tracks just for that exact reason. Anyways, this series, if you've been watching, we use 4 different mods. We use Hot Mod 1968, which is the core mod that turns Call to Arms Gates of Hell into a Cold War era game. And then we use Comrade Ivan's Cold War skins, and that just adds more skins, more definition, more volume to the game, as the skins used by the Hot Mod 1968 are purposefully kind of at a lower quality, so more people can play the games. There isn't as much lag and hang-ups on it. The Comrade Ivan's also takes the skins more into what I would call the 70s and 80s era. The next mod is called West 81 for Hot Mod 1968. That mod brings the Cold War Gone Hot mod, or the Hot mod, into the 80s, as the original Hot Mod 1968 is definitely designed as post-World War II up through, it says 68, I would say it's even a little bit earlier than that. And then the last one, which is my favorite mod ever, is Cold War Alter 1971. And that is this beautiful map that you see on the battlefield here. I mean, it has a working windmill. The map feels like it's in the Cold War era, and it is absolutely beautiful. So anyways, as you can see, we have pushed right on in. We are attacking a town held by the Chinese. We have multiple T-10s. That's sort of our current main battle tank. It makes a beautiful noise with its Dushka up top. At least I believe it's a Dushka that the commander's cupola has. And I think it is a 120 or 105 millimeter cannon it has. It's really great at taking out, well, at least most of the tanks that the Chinese throw at us, but it has an amazing HE round. And as you can see, we are blasting this first objective. Our first objective is that little farm on the crossroads there, and we are slowly moving tanks and infantry forward. Infantry are really squishy in the Cold War era. They have a lack of grenades and smoke grenades, although you can see right here that this group I chose has a couple smoke grenades and a couple regular grenades, but it does seem that one thing I would like for this mod to do is load up the troops with more grenades, as I believe that is something they have. Also, you can see there I'm struggling a little bit to find places for my infantry to sit. If the map designer is ever watching, all those fences, it would be nice if your troops could sit behind the fence and utilize them as defensive positions, but here we go, moving on up. I have 2 mortar teams that I am also using to suppress. I have the 2 PT-76s, which to me are more like armored fighting vehicles than tanks, even though they're on the tank tree. And just sort of our regular slow, methodical push onto an objective. You never want to rush things. The enemy might have an RPG team that can easily take out your PT-76. They might have a hidden anti-tank gun. I will also say the RPG could probably easily take out the T-10 also. But just having combined arms of infantry backing up your tanks and your tanks supporting your infantry really helps make sure everything stays alive, and that's what you kind of see here. having the T-10 move up. There's a Chinese squad trying to reinforce that position, but it looks like the T-10 sort of caught them out in the open and killed a lot of them. Here's one of my favorite units in this mod is the Marksman. Later on you will see that I absolutely love various different types of Marksmen. I think they provide a lot of extra precise firepower that your regular squads don't have. And as you can see there, I'm taking a couple casualties there. The firepower and accuracy of the weapons in this area is quite something. So you guys listen to some of the mortar fall. I also love that the buildings are destructible. You can see we took a giant hole out of that building. Hopefully the farmer won't send me a bill afterwards. I'm sure Russia will pay, right? Our mortars are a little danger close here. I do find that in the Cold War mod, mortars, I like them, but they do fire upon the enemy at danger close, and their accuracy leaves a lot to be desired. Here's another push by the Chinese across the open, but our T-10 is just mowing them down. Oh no, sorry, that's our PT-76 that was mowing them down. Now our T-10 is firing. You can hear the difference between our machine guns. It is an awesome sound. So as I said before, unfortunately episode 5 and 6 will be like this. I did check episode 7 and beyond and the audio is fine. Just something happened with my microphone on these, but thankfully the in-game volume is on a separate track. So I'll try my best to make this interesting. I've definitely cut down the footage a lot so that there's less dead space in there. This video is one of the shorter videos I'll be uploading, and the reason is just because of the microphone, so I don't really go through the salvage screen or much of the early game or the end game, because that's usually just me waffling on. So instead I get to just bore you guys to death with my voice this way. Gosh, I just love the Dushka on the T-10. That sound is beautiful. I believe soon we will be locking T-64s. Now, T-64s are strictly part of the 81 West mod. They are not in the 1968 mod. And I get why. They really are, even though, you know, you'd think T-64, that's like the 60s, right? It's not really how the Russian numbering system works per se. A lot of their things actually don't make a lot of sense in terms of numbering. A little bit of a lag there. I will say the assets in this game, maybe the Hot Mod 1968, those guys probably have it right. As I said, they use sort of like a lower poly count, and that's to help with some of this lag that you saw right there. With the assets rendering in. I have a very high-end PC. I don't have a 4090, but I do have a 4080. I have, you know, the 16 or 32. I think I have 32 gigabytes of RAM. I have the top-end processor that you can get, water cooling system, all of that. So my PC should be able to handle just about everything. I mean, it's as good as you can get without having a 4090. I have a 4080. You know, there's a $500 difference between that minimal amount of performance. More Chinese running across the open. As you can see, infantry in the open in this just get obliterated, which I think is how it should be. In the World War II version, I do find that infantry can run across the open a little bit too easily. That being said, in World War II, you're using a lot of bolt-action rifles still. A lot of World War I era technology in the small arms department. I would also like to point out, this video will be uploaded in 4K, so you should have the option to view it in 4K, and the screen resolution size should fit everybody's screen. I have an ultra-wide monitor. I understand that not everybody has an ultra-wide monitor, but I want to play on my ultra-wide. I bought it for that reason. So YouTube doesn't really support 20:9 aspect ratios. They only support, well, I should say they have more support for 16:9, which is what most people have as a monitor. I think that was a SU-76. No, sorry, that was the, I think it's an SU-57-2. It's an anti-aircraft, self-propelled anti-aircraft gun. It has two very large caliber cannons designed to take out aircraft and helicopters. As you can see there, my infantry were caught out in the open, and they were just decimated, absolutely decimated. But as I was saying, YouTube prefers to support 16:9. I will upload everything in 21:9 resolution. That means it should fit everybody's screen. The downside to that is that I can't add end screens to the end of the video. Those are those little cards you see that say, like, if you like this video, this might be another video you would enjoy from this YouTuber, this is the playlist from that YouTuber, and here's my logo with a subscribe button. So I've made that decision. Most people don't watch all the way through to the end anyways, so for those of you that do and you will miss that option, I'm really sorry. I definitely appreciate you guys who watch all the way through. It means a lot to me, but I think everybody could agree that a resolution that fits the screen better is the better choice, and I'm not willing to sacrifice my own personal enjoyment by not using my ultra-wide, so I think this is the best way to balance that. Anyways, we have easily secured Objective 1, and we are just pushing up on Objective 2. You'll see my slow, methodical pace, moving tanks up, moving infantry up to support them, and it looks like they had a small vehicle of some sort move forward that our T-10s took out. Their infantry are once again running across the open, and you can see that we are just mowing them down. It is an absolute massacre. In order to protect our tanks from air and RPG strikes, moving some infantry up forward. We'll say some of the screams are a little over the top, but otherwise most of the voice acting in this is phenomenal, and I truly do enjoy and appreciate it. Our medic here is in a really bad position. That's a pretty risky move, having our medic out in front of our tanks and most of our infantry. Really, you'd want smoke there to screen the soldiers that you are saving, or you'd just want an infantry screen and a tank screen in front of the medic. Some of this lag also is that I believe I had a variable bitrate going while recording these early videos, and that's just me growing as a YouTuber. I've been learning more about the OBS software, so a lot of my more recent videos will have a constant bitrate and a higher bitrate so that the recording software doesn't lag. As I said, I do have a higher end PC. My PC can handle it. It's just all about fine-tuning your software. So here's infantry running in the open again. Mortar blast in the middle. I believe that was a T-10 that fired. Yeah, I think that was an HE round from a T-10. A lot of these actions on the flanks are technically unnecessary, but I would rather have my flanks protected than have, say, try to think what the Chinese have, like a Type 54 or something like that, I believe is their equivalent to the T-10. I'd rather have my flanks secure and see something like that roll up than just have a tank roll up on my flank and be able to take 1 to 2 shots on my tanks before I can react. There are just a pile of bodies in front of my infantry there. This is all about snuffing out the enemy's defensive position at this point. And once again, trying to cover my flanks. The building-to-building fighting is pretty brutal. You can see right there, there's another Su-57-2 off in the distance. Looks like our T-10 is trying to engage it, but it is hitting us pretty badly. That is a big gun that vehicle has. Our tracks are broken. We don't have good line of sight to it, but it has an angle on us, and it looks like I'm not really doing a good job of fighting back. I am losing a lot of crew here, and that thing is tearing me apart. So some good old manual control of the tank to try to fire. As you can see, our little green dot was hitting a tree there, so I need to maneuver the fire around. I'm also losing crew. That should be a good hit, and straight through the vehicle. More infantry crossing the open, Dushka on the T-10, just tearing them down. I finally remember I have another call-in. I don't really need it, but I believe... yeah. So actually, all I did for that call-in was I wanted the tank crew because my tanks were taking a beating. As you can see, my infantry up front, it has disappeared. And it definitely... you can lose infantry so quickly in this era. There's my captured ISU-152. It's a World War II era vehicle. I mean, it's a very good World War II era vehicle. Different nations used it for quite some time after World War II. We captured it from the Chinese. Funny enough, actually I think the Soviets can unlock it in their tree. But definitely a relic of an older era. So here we are moving through the town. I believe I moved one of my T-10s up onto the highway. I'm moving the Su-152 up in support. Definitely a lot of frames lost here, and I actually believe that is the recording software on the lower bitrate. And as I said in future videos, I have increased my bitrate on recording by a substantial margin and made it a constant bitrate so that it doesn't drop, and that should provide better quality videos. More infantry crossing out in the open. You can see just swarms of them moving through the village, and that kill feed was a T-10 with an HE shell blasting them to pieces. I decided to pull back my infantry a bit. They don't quite have the tank support I would like at the moment. Sort of just looking back at my last call and seeing if there's anything that I actually need, and I think the answer is no. really just need infantry to push forward, secure different areas, and I need my T-10s to continue covering. I need that tank crew up, which looks like they are just here, and looks like I'm repairing my T-10 and recrewing it. I have the SU-152 looking down that road. SU-152 basically has a giant howitzer on it. You can see various weapons strewn about that the Chinese had manned at one point. I'll say this a million times throughout this series, the sound of the marksman when they fire upon the enemy is an amazing sound. So is the sound of a Dushka firing. However, we just took a pummeling there from the infantry. And I think I'm trying to figure out what to do with my 152 here. I decided a PT-76 is a great support for infantry, and start moving that around. I think once this T-10 is relatively fixed up, that I can push forward. A little wary of that flank being overrun by infantry again. Did I mention that the windmills work? That fascinates me. These maps are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I believe the map maker in the HotMod 1968 Discord has been making a few fixes with the HotMod 1968 guys. HotMod 1968 has script for correctly digging into trenches, for the automedic, and a couple other features that I can't remember. And the map maker for this map mod didn't know about some of those scripts that they had created originally, and I believe he did add them to his mod. It won't be in this series, so anytime I talk about, like, oh, you know, the guys aren't digging in correctly, or other things like that, I believe the mod maker did fix that. You can see a heavy tank coming in the distance. By heavy tank, it's probably a T-34 or an IS-2. Definitely dropped frames there, I don't like that. Not sure if we have a good bead on it. Going through the correct ammo. When you're in third or first person, you want to change ammo, you hit space. Early on in the campaign, I struggled to understand that concept. So that looked like that shot did absolutely nothing to the IS-2. IS-2 was a very well-developed tank for its time, so it was used for a little bit after World War II. But those are some deflections. T-10 doesn't have the greatest round. I do think, well, the 152 blasting it like that. PT-76 definitely has a lower, a less powerful gun than the T-10, so it makes sense that it was deflecting. But we actually struggled to take this IS-2 out. Now, when I say struggle, it's completely disabled, and it was posing no threat to us. But it took a while for us to completely decrew it. Another vehicle coming down the road. I imagine that is another Su-52, 57-2. At least I believe that's what it's called. The Chinese call it something else. Actually, it's a T-34. Our T-10 completely missed it. It was looking somewhere else. And looks like a T-10 got a beat on the T-34 as a bunch of enemy tank crew were killed. I imagine that we got a nice hit off of it, and on the minimap you can see that the T-34 is now white as opposed to red. Something I always recommend is looking at your minimap. Really helps out with understanding if vehicles have been taken out of action or enemy artillery, and also spotting enemy artillery. When enemy artillery fires, either a little circle will spread out from the area that you think it's in, or you'll actually be able to see where the infantry is. I don't know if I noticed this, but there are Chinese running through the fields there, but they're not long for this world. Between the marksman, machine guns, the 152, the T-10, they disintegrated. So we have one. I believe I am just trying to properly secure the town, and then I would salvage the battlefield. Not that I actually need anything that the Chinese provide, although I do believe I steal their Su-57-2s. Those are really nice pieces of equipment, and I have not unlocked them myself. As I said, the Chinese call them something else, but they are Soviet equipment. I think that big blast was our own 152 shooting. There's a lot of danger close in this game. Like I brought up an anti-tank gun, and really what I'm doing is just securing this flank in case the Chinese have an armor push, or maybe an infantry push that is too large for me to handle. Here I am futzing around with the terrain, but this battle's over. But there's something fun that I'll have to show you all. It's absolutely brutal. Maybe it is caught on footage. So there's a Chinese soldier, a couple walking across the courtyard there. Watch my T-10 and watch my infantry here. They go through this house, and watch the kill feed. Yep. My T-10 annihilates the Chinese, but also annihilates every Russian that was right there. So that was a blue on blue, or we'll call it a red on red incident there, and there's me just absolutely saying screw you to, I think, an M5 scout car, or whatever the Chinese want to call it. So yeah, most of my casualties in this battle were from that one incident there, where my T-10 fires an HE round into the Chinese at point blank, with a squad of my troops right next to it. Absolutely brutal. It's a real shame that my microphone audio crapped out, because my reaction to that was quite awesome. And as I've said before, episode 7 is when we will return to the normal. Episode 5 and 6, unfortunately, my microphone audio was corrupt. but I think I have solved the problem permanently, and that should not happen in any other videos. So this battle is basically over. I think I am just terrified of close quarter fighting at this point. One of the previous battles, I think it was episode 2, or no, it would be episode 3. When I was salvaging the battlefield, I lost so many soldiers in close range firefights to the enemies that were just sitting in buildings as one-offs, and so I almost had PTSD from that in this episode. The taking a little village like this can be really, really brutal. Here I am talking about the death and carnage that my T10 caused. But this mission is basically over. I go on to salvage the battlefield, and you'll be able to see some of the nice goodies. We lost about 25 men. I think most of those were friendly fire, which is pretty bad. But, you know, that's what happens sometimes. So 13.5 research lets us push down a lot. There's not much after this, so I will just say, guys, thank you very much. This will be fixed in the future. If you've made it this far, I greatly appreciate it. And as always, until next time. If you enjoyed this content and would like to see more, please like, subscribe, and comment below.